Welcome everyone. Please gather around. We'll get the event started. I am Tina Reed, Senior Healthcare Reporter at Axios, and I write the Axios Vitals newsletter. If you are not already subscribed, please do so at axios.com. Thank you for joining us for this Future of Cancer Care and how the new Washington could shape what comes next. To start, I am joined by someone whose story reminds us about why we are all here. She is a cancer patient advocate, a motivational speaker, and best-selling author. She is known for her honesty, her resilience, and fierce commitment to changing the way we think about cancer. She drove in today from New Jersey just for this event, so please welcome Amanda Rose Ferraro to the stage. Well, thank you so much for making the drive. We really appreciate it. I want to start with what my favorite detail was about your story, which is your website. It was inspired a little bit from your New Jersey roots. So can you start by talking about what's the name of your blog and what are you trying to convey with it?
The name of my blog is Cancer is an Asshole, because it is, right? Look at the laughter. You see that cancer is so dark. It is hard and it is scary. But if we can have a little humor behind it, it makes it less difficult to hear. Hence the name, Cancer is an Asshole.
You have a long history with cancer, starting way back when you were 8 years old. Could you tell us a little bit about your cancer journey and how it led you to advocacy?
Yeah, so actually when I was 8 years old, I had brain surgery. My very first one. I've had 7. For an inoperable cyst on my cerebellum. I have hydrocephalus, and I live with a ventricular arterial shunt that goes from my brain through my jugular and down into my heart, the last surgery being when I was 16 weeks pregnant with my son. When he was 3, I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. But when I was 8 years old, my sister was diagnosed with PNET, a primitive neuroectodermal tumor, or today, glioblastoma. So I got to witness my family torn apart, but find hope and faith in the doctors and the research and the hospital. We went to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which was absolutely amazing. My sister today is 26 years cancer-free, so that's amazing. But like I had said, so my sister had cancer. A year after my sister, my aunt was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma. And then a few years after that, I lost my grandfather to esophageal cancer. When I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, I went to the emergency room one day and ended up staying. They told me I had leukemia, and then I went from one hospital to another hospital because unfortunately, when they found it, they didn't think I would live. So we went to the National Cancer Institute in New Jersey, Rutgers University, and they were able to save my life. Unfortunately, I did relapse, and that was because of a genetic mutation called TP53. In doing genetic testing, we found out that my family is generational with TP53, and we were unfortunately diagnosed with Li-Fraumeni syndrome. We have 4 generations with the TP53 genetic mutation, lots of breast cancer, cervical cancer, tumors, and unfortunately, leukemias that are in my family. So currently working with a scientific oncologist because my mutation has a variant on the 72nd codon, which unfortunately has never been discovered before. So yay, I'm lucky, one of one. But after finding out I have the TP53 and relapsing, I did a stem cell transplant. And today I am 6.5 years cancer-free. I am a German man, and I'm here to share my story with you all in hopes to bring advocacy and a different perspective of cancer.
You mentioned something backstage about your stem cell transplant and how it actually changed your immune system to the point where you have new allergies now.
Yes. Yeah, so when you have a stem cell transplant, your blood type can change. My donor was the same as me, so my blood type didn't have to change, but sometimes that does create some graft versus host disease. I do suffer with chronic graft versus host disease, my bones and my joints, as well as sometimes my stomach. I do have to be careful what I eat. But because Germany is a little different from the US, in New Jersey, we have some trees and plants, pollen, that isn't over in Germany. So unfortunately, I have some newfound allergies, one of which I didn't know I was allergic to sunflower oil until I needed an EpiPen in the emergency room. So it's a learning curve, but I'm alive to talk about it.
Well, and speaking of that learning curve, I always find it so interesting talking to patients and how you become essentially an expert in your disease, in some of these words that the rest of us might not have even heard before. Can you talk about how you've really harnessed that to advocate for other cancer patients like yourself?
Well, I think being diagnosed with cancer and seeing my family go through it, I kind of felt like, maybe this is my time. I'm here for a reason. And I actually used it for good. I felt like I used the cancer diagnosis as a harnessed kick in the butt, if I might say so myself. I just wanted to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. I wanted people to understand that cancer is not black and white. It's a big gray area, whether medication, funding. When you go to the hospital, you need to pay for tolls, gas, the food that you're supposed to eat, the parking garage, all of those things that aren't spoken about. I decided I was going to speak about it because who better than somebody going through cancer treatment at the time?
Was there a moment in your treatment or diagnosis where you felt especially failed by the system?
Probably in the beginning. I was misdiagnosed at first, and I was upset because I had went to the hospital in March of 2017, and they were like, okay, you're a little overweight, go home, eat some red meat, you have a young child, maybe you're just tired, not getting enough sleep. And then when I went back in May 17th, 2017, I was told I would have died in my sleep if I didn't go to the hospital. My hemoglobin was a 5, and that was scary, and I felt like the medical system had failed. But I didn't want that for anyone else. So that's why I started advocating.
What success have you seen so far in telling your story?
Wow. Well, I've had a TED Talk. My website is seen all over the world. I have so many people come to me and talk to me and just thank me for, sometimes parents, they think they're alone in their journey, or they have a child and they're in need of daycare or bills, and they don't know how to talk to their significant other. And there's so many things to discuss. My hair loss. How do I tell my children? How do I get what I'm feeling across, but not feeling like it's all about me? So I really just want everyone who's going through cancer to know that your journey is your journey, and it's okay to say the good things, the bad things, whatever you want out loud, and never feel ashamed of what you're going through.
Can you talk about survivorship, the after, the not just staying alive, but really thriving?
Yeah. It's difficult because with me, especially with the weather or temperature changes, I'm not really sure what my day's going to be like because of the graft versus host disease. But I am alive. I have beat the odds when I was told that I wasn't. And so many cancer patients out there are told they have a rare cancer, or there isn't therapies that they can use, or the doctors will try something and they're sorry if it doesn't work. But I've been able to see through different advocacy that I do through the CDMRP or with the Alliance for Clinical Trials in Oncology, these wonderful clinical trials go through and save people's lives. And people who thought they were dying 3 years ago are out thriving and running marathons and having children and advocating, and it's amazing to see.
The CDMRP, can you talk about what that is?
Yeah, so the CDMRP, I'm a consumer reviewer, and it is like scientists and doctors will come together and they want to push through and get funding for a clinical trial. So as a consumer reviewer, I will discuss, is it important? If I was to bring this to a cancer patient, would I actually go through it? Would I say no? Would I say, well, there really isn't enough there for me to actually feel safe to go through it? So it's really amazing talking to scientists and reading through so many years of work and funding and research that these doctors and scientists do. and saying, yes, I think this one is the one we need to push through because that's going to save many lives, it is so empowering.
What makes you most optimistic right now about in the world of oncology?
Well, I think that we're looking in so many different avenues. We're working not only in the United States, but we're working all over the world. We're coming together. We're discussing different clinical trials with different governments. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's we are doing this together, and I think that is amazing because we're going to save so many more lives.
And then how can health systems and researchers do a better job of integrating real patient voices like yours?
Well, I think having patient advocacy, I think it's huge. Patients sometimes don't understand what they can do for themselves, or I like to say when you're diagnosed with cancer, it doesn't just stop everything, it's added on top of our daily lives. So I still have to be a mom, I still have bills, I still have a house, I still have cars, I still have everything that I'm doing. I just have cancer, possibly, not living, in the back of my mind. So what can we do to help cancer patients have a little bit of that eased burden? What about having patient advocates talk to them or maybe share resources with them that they can go to? Because you're not given a handbook when you're diagnosed with cancer. It's not go to this website or here's research papers or here's funding that you can get. It's kind of like you have cancer and good luck, here's your treatment. So I think adding patient advocacy to clinical trials or anything that we're doing is an added bonus.
This event is about what the new Washington might mean for cancer care. What do you want policymakers, whoever they are, to hear directly from patients like you?
I want them to hear that, in America, 60% of human beings, adults, live with a chronic illness. That is half of the country. The people who vote for you, the people that you represent, are the people that are suffering and dying. So I think we need to possibly humanize cancer. We need to make sure that we're sharing all aspects, not just we need this money for this medication. We need to understanding that this mom or this dad, they have a family and they're struggling. And so many cancer patients, I know some myself, going through foreclosures right now and bankruptcy because cancer's taken everything, all of their savings. Sometimes you have health insurance or they say, oh, go to Medicaid or try to get on Medicare, but it's not that easy because it's a process to do. And when you're trying to save your life, you're trying to speed up that process a little bit. So I think just bringing a humanization to cancer.
And so what are you working on next? We're getting close on time, but what's the next step for you?
The next step for me is really trying to get the comprehensive cancer survivorship into action and passed. We need that. It is so important. That way cancer patients, survivorship starts when you're first diagnosed. You're surviving that cancer. But there's nothing to follow up with that. Once you're done and the oncologist says, okay, I'll see you in 6 months, that's when PTSD starts. What do you mean? What do I do? I'm supposed to be talking to my oncologist, letting him know my symptoms, letting him know if I'm sick, if I have a cold, and that is so scary. So I think advocating, coming to Capitol Hill and rallying, and just speaking and letting people understand what cancer survivorship is truly about.
And is there any particular legislation you're really pushing for, or is it
I think
more of a general
the
idea?
comprehensive cancer survivorship is what, with NCCS, I'll be here back in June. I absolutely love them, and I think that's, for me, the most important right now. But waiting to see what's happening with the budget cuts, I think, is a little scary because we don't know what's going to happen with that. A lot of cancer patients have to go on Medicaid, and they do need funding because it's expensive. So yeah, you just try to see what happens next, but also making sure that all of my advocacy friends are on the same page and we're fighting for cancer patients.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.